I still remember the day my son Chitty was born. The Harmattan wind blew gently through the small hospital window in Enugu as his first cry echoed through the room. I held him in my arms, a tiny bundle of hope wrapped in white cloth, and I promised him that no matter what, I would give him the best life I could afford. His father had left me when I was just 2 months pregnant, and from that moment on, I became mother and father, working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table and pay his school fees. I sold akara in the mornings by the roadside and cleaned offices in the evenings. My hands were always sore, but my heart was full each time I saw Chitty smile. Chitty was a brilliant boy. Even as a child, he would read newspapers I brought home from the offices, asking me questions about big grammar I didn't even understand. I always told him, "My son, one day you will make it big. Just don't forget your roots." He would laugh and hug me, saying, "Mama, I will build you a mansion, you will rest." Those words were my fuel whenever life became hard. Years went by, and Chitty got admission to study computer engineering at the University of Lagos. That was when things became tougher. The little money I had saved from years of suffering went into his school fees. I sold the small land my late father had left me just to buy him a laptop and pay his hostel rent. Sometimes I went to bed hungry just to make sure he had enough to eat. When he called and complained that he didn't have money for textbooks or data, I borrowed from neighbors and promised to pay back after collecting my next cleaning pay. There were nights I cried quietly in my one-room apartment, praying that God would bless him so that all this sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. After graduation, Chitty struggled to find a job. He stayed in my small room in Enugu, applying for every opening he saw online. Sometimes he would sit in frustration, saying maybe he should go and learn barbing or driving. I encouraged him to be patient, that his time would come. One day, a company abroad contacted him for a remote tech job. That was the turning point. From the moment he got that first foreign salary, everything changed like a nollywood film. Chitty moved to Lagos and started living large. He got contracts from big companies and even opened his own tech firm. Within 2 years, he became a millionaire. He bought a house in Lekki, imported a brand new SUV, and married Amara, a beautiful woman from a wealthy family. They had a lavish wedding that I attended wearing the only lace wrapper I could afford, and even though I was proud, I noticed how Amara barely looked at me that day. She acted like I was an embarrassment. Still, I told myself she would warm up to me with time. When they moved into their new house, Chitty invited me to come stay with them. He said he wanted to take care of me as I had taken care of him. My heart swelled with joy. I left my small room in Enugu and came to Lagos, thinking my suffering days were finally over. At first, things were fine, but soon Amara started showing her true colors. She would roll her eyes whenever I spoke, complain about the way I cooked, and sigh loudly whenever I prayed aloud in the living room. "Mama, this is Lagos, not the village," she would say, wrinkling her nose as if my presence polluted her air. I tried to ignore her and focused on helping in the house. I washed plates, swept floors, and even tended the small garden at the back. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. Chitty started siding with her. If I corrected their maid for being lazy, they said I was causing trouble. If I advised them about spending wisely, they said I was old-fashioned. Gradually, I felt like a stranger in my own son's house. One evening, everything changed completely. Amara had cooked rice, and I added some pepper to my portion because I like my food spicy. She flared up, shouting that I had ruined her kitchen with village habits. I was shocked. Chitty came back from work, and instead of defending me, he told me I had to be more modern. If I wanted to stay there, my heart broke that day. A week later, they called me to the sitting room. Chitty looked uncomfortable, while Amara smirked beside him. He cleared his throat and said, "Mama, we think it's best if you move out. We will rent an apartment for you nearby and send you upkeep money." Those words stabbed me like a knife. Move out from my own son's house. I stared at him with tears in my eyes and asked, Chitty, after all I suffered to raise you, this is how you repay me." He avoided my eyes and muttered something about needing their privacy. I packed my bag in silence. They dropped me off at a small one-bedroom apartment in Surulere and gave me some money. As they drove away, I stood at the doorway, tears running down my face. I had given my whole life to that boy, and now that he had become rich, he threw me away like an old rag. For days, I stayed inside crying. My neighbors thought someone had died. I couldn't eat or sleep. I felt betrayed, abandoned, useless. But one morning, I woke up and remembered my late mother's words. "A strong woman does not die where people bury her alive." That was the moment I decided I would not let sorrow kill me. I took the small money they gave me and started frying akara again by the roadside, just like old times. At first, people laughed. Some said, "This old woman wants to die under the sun," but I ignored them. My akara was so good that people kept coming. I added puff, buff and pap, then later started selling mwam, watu. Business grew fast. One of my regular customers, a woman who owned a catering company, liked my spirit and offered to partner with me. She helped me register a small food business and got me contracts to supply snacks at events. Within 1 year, I saved enough to rent a shop and hired 2 young girls to help me. I named the place Mama Chitty Foods. Customers came in droves because they said my food tasted like home. I became so busy that I stopped thinking about my son and his wife. All I knew was that I had found joy again. Then something unexpected happened. One day, I received an invitation to a big tech conference in Victoria Island. They wanted me to handle catering for over 500 guests. I didn't know it was organized by Chitty's company until I got there. I wore my cleanest wrapper and supervised my girls as we arranged trays of jollof rice, small chops, and chilled Zobo drinks. When Chitty walked in wearing his expensive suit, he froze when he saw me. "Mama," he whispered, looking as if he had seen a ghost. Amara stood behind him, her eyes wide. I smiled and continued serving food like nothing happened. Throughout the event, people kept praising the food, asking who made it. When they pointed at me, their faces turned red with shock. After the event, Chitty came to me, his voice trembling. "Mama, I didn't know you were doing all this." I looked at him calmly and said, "When life throws you away, you learn to stand on your own feet." He begged me to forgive him, saying he had been foolish and blinded by pride. Even Amara knelt down, crying that she was sorry for treating me badly. I listened quietly. My heart was still hurting, but I saw genuine regret in their eyes. "Mama, please come back home," Chitty said. "We want you with us." I shook my head. "No, my son, this is my home now. I am happy and free here. You have your own family to take care of. Just remember where you came from and never look down on anyone again." Chitty hugged me tightly, tears streaming down his face. That day, something changed in him. Since then, he has supported my business with big contracts, but I still live in my own place and run my affairs proudly. Now people call me Mama CEO in the area. Sometimes when I sit in my shop counting money, I remember those dark days when I thought my life was over. I smile and thank God for showing me that no matter how people treat you, your worth comes from within. My son and his wife kicked me out thinking they were ending my story, but they only pushed me to discover a new strength I didn't know I had. And now whenever young women come to my shop complaining about how life has treated them, I tell them, don't cry when people reject you. Use that pain to build something they can never take from you. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your support encourages me to share more inspiring stories like this.